Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. Okay, so last week I think we did. Yes, I think we did up to 28th. I think so. Okay, 28th. Yes, so we started the Vibhuti section, and I think I briefly talked about that how there are many things that might not be believable or might seem a bit fantastical. But for those things, we can suspend our disbelief and just keep them aside for this time. We don't necessarily have to invest a lot of effort in trying to understand them. And we continue with our reading. That was one thought that had been discussed. Right? So putting a scripture on the back burner is okay for some time. You don't have to overly stress about understanding things, because it's not something material. It's going to come to us by Krishna's grace. It's not something I can raise my hand and pluck it. So it has to come from Krishna. So with that thought, we'll continue with our reading. So 28th was that weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Surabhi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandarpa. God of love. Of serpents, I am Vasuki. 29. Anantas chasmi naganam varuno yadasamaham pitranam ariyama chashmi yamaha samyatam aham. Let's see. Of the many hooded nagas, I am Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Of departed ancestors, I am Ariyama, and among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the lord of death. Right? In the last verse, we saw a word. What was that? Sarpanam. So sarpas. So that was the word we saw in the last one, serpents. And then here we see a similar word, which is nagas, naganam. It's also serpents. The difference lies in the fact that it's many-hooded. So that's the difference between a naga and sarpas. So nagas are multi-hooded, they have multi-heads, whereas sarpas are single-headed. Right? And of most celebrated of those multi-headed serpent is Ananta. So power of Ananta is an opulence of Krishna. So Ananta is the one on whom this universe rests, on one of the hoods of this universe rests. Right. Then comes Yadasam. The word Yadasam, Yadasam means aquatics, of all the aquatics. So Yadasam means of all the aquatics, Varuna is the controller of water. The Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, there is a story where how Nanda Maharaj was taken captive by the servants of Varuna. And then, Krishna comes and Varuna begs for forgiveness and so forth. So Krishna, his power, Varuna's power represents Krishna. Then comes Aryama. So talking about Pitras. Pitra Aryama Chashmi. So Aryama is one of the Adityas. We talked about Adityas in the first verse, right? Aditya Namaham Vishnu. All the Adityas I am Vishnu. So one of the Aryamas is also Adityas is Aryama also. Right? We in the 9th chapter also there was a verse called Pitri Yanti Pitrvita Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja. So people who pray to or who worship the forefathers, they go to the planet of the forefathers. So that's the Pitrama. So that's Aryama. And the Pitraloka, just to give you an understanding. So the Pitraloka is more in the lower planets of the earth. That's where Pitra, many Prabhupada has talked about it. Many of his purports in Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Pitraloka is in the bottom, right? That's where the Pitraloka is. So what happens is that people, when they do extremely good pious credits, they do a lot of good piety, they go to heavenly planets. People who do average piety, they go to the Pitralokas. And there, was anybody saying something? No. Okay. So yes, so that's where the Pitraloka is. It's so Atal, Sutal, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal, Patal. Patal is the lowest planet in this creation. And between Patal and Garbhaloka is Pitraloka, right? And the lowest, so that's and below the Pitraloka are the Narklokas. So if you read the 5th canto, they explain this whole details. So all the Atals, Sutal, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal, Patal. After Patal, below is Narklokas. So all I think there are 28 hells that have been described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So they are below the 7 Atal Sutal that I just talked about, and below that Narkloka is the Garbhodhaka ocean. So in which Mahavishnu Vishnu is lying down, and from his navel the lotus is coming out. So that's where it is, right? So if many people, I'm not sure how many, but in India, at least in my family, I've seen my parents doing Shraddh ceremonies, and then they even go to they don't do it now, but when I was young, then used to go to our hometown, and they would offer to Pitras. They would do some ritualistic, and they would offer some food to the Pitras. Right, because sometimes, because they have done just average piety, they were not suited enough for the higher planetary systems, heavens, etc. So they go on Pitra, and then they wait for their children or children's children to do some of the some sacrifices on their behalf, and then by this the Lord is pleased by the devotional service of the descendants, and then the souls of the forefathers are liberated, right? So Pitraloka is a specific planet in this planetary system. I just wanted to highlight that. It's given in the 5th canto if you're interested. So the 19th chapter onwards of the 5th canto talks about all these things: the planetary systems, the cosmology, and all that. So that if you're interested in getting deeper into Pitraloka, 5th canto, the last few verses, I think 24th and beyond also, if I remember correctly, is Pitraloka. They talk about Pitraloka. Prabhupada talks about it. So that's where Pitraloka is. Okay. So in that Pitraloka, Aryama is the person who is taking care of that planetary system, Pitraloka. And and then the last one is Yama. Among the dispensers of law, I am Yama. So Yamraj, he regulates. Samyatam, the word here uses Samyatam. So Samyatam, right? Samya means balanced. So who balances it? So Samyatam is so he's regulating. Everybody in this world wants to break free, defy rules, but ultimately they are regulated by Yamraj. The cosmic system of justice is there. So those who refuse to be regulated in this world have to endure punishments due to their karmic misdeeds, and that is done by Yamraj. Okay. Then come 30. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am the Garuda. So as we talked about, earlier I mentioned this whole the Vedic cosmos is divided into Daityas and Adityas. So Adityas, sons of Aditi, are godly. Sons of Diti are Daityas, they are ungodly. So their natures are very opposite to each other. And that is why they're always in a conflict, right? And I told you the story, right? How Diti approaches Kashyapa at a wrong time, that she wanted to have sexual intercourse with him, and Kashyapa kind of tried to avoid it, but he could not. And, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were born and so forth. So among these Daityas, a very special person is Prahlad. Prahlad didn't have any physical power, but had immense spiritual power. And he got more power than his own father just by sticking to godly conduct. Right? So God's presence is so pervasive that his opulence is manifested in ungodly too. Uh, that's the message to take from the Prahlad story. That God's presence is very pervasive. It's everywhere. Even if Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill Vishnu, but that's not possible. So it was even manifest in that environment also. Krishna's pervasive. Krishna was pervasive there. Right? It's said that when Hiranyakashipu went looking for Vishnu all over the when he went looking for Vishnu all over the world, all of this creation, he couldn't find Vishnu, and he thought Vishnu had, just escaped or hidden from him. But actually, Vishnu had come and sit in his heart, because he would not look in his own heart; he would look everywhere. So yeah, that's the reason why Prahlad, saying devotees of Prahlad, because Krishna can manifest anywhere. Among subduers, I am time. Right? So among subduers, I am time. Again, people may refuse to be subdued, but time subdues everyone. Time makes all the shiny faces shriveled, um, strong persons weak, healthy persons sickly, active persons passive. No one can resist time. There can be many conquerors, but everyone is eventually subdued by time. So that's it. So right. So time, you cannot run away from time. Krishna will say in the next chapter, we'll read the 11th. Krishna says, Kala Kalyatam Asmi. That people who refuse to see me as Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for them I come as time in the form of death. Kala Kalyatam Asmi. Then next is beast, I am lion. Okay, yes. So Mirga means animal, right? So Mirgendra. So Mirgendra is lion. So the word here is Mirgendra. So of all the animals, I am the lion. And if you lion by himself, he's very ferocious, but he's also a majestic animal, right? And that is extraordinary. His majesty is extraordinary, right? So once Prabhupada went to the zoo with his disciples, and there people were making fun of the lion. He was in his cage, and they were just poking him and all that. So Prabhupada, said, "Don't do it, because he's a royal animal, and he's already been insulted by putting in this cage, so don't insult him further." So then among birds, I'm Garuda. Vainatyash cha pakshina. So the word Vainatyash comes from Viniti. So the mother of snakes is, Viniti is the mother of Garuda, right? So the mother of snakes is Kadru. Oh yes, I'm trying to remember the story. Kadru. So Garuda was the son of Viniti, who was also a wife of Kashyapa Muni, but then she was mistreated by another wife of Kashyapa Muni, Kadru, and Garuda couldn't tolerate this mistreatment, and he asked Kadru. I think there was some incident that happened before, and some kind of arrangement that because of which Viniti accepted to be, kind of mistreated by Kadru. But then Garuda couldn't tolerate this after he was born, and he asked Kadru that, "What will it take for you to free my mother?" She said, "Go and get nectar from heaven." So he went to get heaven to get nectar from heaven uh, for the Nagas. The Nagas were the sons of Kadru, the snakes. Uh, but then there was Indra, and Indra fought with Garuda, but he couldn't defeat Garuda. Garuda is so powerful, obviously, because he's Vishnu's uh, you know carrier, so he cannot be defeated. So Indra was very impressed by him, and he became friends with him. Indra became friends with Garuda, and they chalked out a plan that, okay, Indra said, "I will give you the nectar, you know, so you take the nectar with you, and you hand it over to Kadru, and then you just fly off, and your flying will create so much flutter and so much wind and so forth that for a minute she'll just blinded, and during that time I'll take the Amrit and I'll go back to the spirit to heavenly planet." And that's what happened. So he kept his promise. He handed over the Amrit to Indra, but then Indra, sorry, not Indra, Kadru. But then Indra took it back also. So that's the story, and so that's why uh, he's the chief of the birds, because he's being carried by he's the carrier of Vishnu. So Vainatya. So if you notice in the scriptures, the mother's name can be expanded to give the son's name. So Vainatyas coming from Viniti, Partha coming from Pritha, you know. Then all these names, you might have seen these names. Daityas coming from Diti, Adityas coming from Aditi. So the mother's name has more weightage. Children's. So, okay. 31. Of purifiers I am the wind, of the wielders of weapons I am Ram, of fishes I am the shark, and of flowing rivers I am the Ganges. Right. So Krishna continues to describe his opulences. So Pavana is wind. So Pavata, the word, so Pavana Pavatam Asmi. So the word Pavatam comes from, you must have heard the word Pavitra, right? So Pavitra means pure. So the Pava or Pavitra, that indicates, so the word Pavata comes from Pavitra. So in terms of cleansing ourselves, we think, okay, bathing of water and soaps, etc. Right? We do Achaman for purification. Interestingly, Krishna is saying wind for purifying. So wind always carries away the bad odor. So in the 15th chapter also there is a verse where Krishna says that, just like air carries away the bad odor. He talks about that. So so that's why he's saying wind, because wind can carry away those those bad odors and can purify the place. That's why it's being called as the purifier of winds. Then he's talking of Ram. So Ram here can be multiple meanings. Ram can mean Lord Ram, it can mean Parshuram, it can mean Balram, right? So all had weapons, right? All of them had weapons, and we're talking of Krishna's manifestation. So Lord Ram's quintessential image was of a warrior, Kshatriya hero. Right? So he was dressed as a hermit, but he was still carrying weapons. He hadn't given up the world. He was serving the king by killing demons in the forest. So that's why he's the wielder of weapons. So that's one way of looking at it. Of fishes, I'm the shark. So the most fearsome is shark. Right? So when we think about the ocean, we see aquatic animals. We see that it kind of evokes some fear in our heart, right? And so that is coming from the power that those animals have, that shark has, right? So that power has been endowed by Krishna. And then last is, I'm flowing rivers, I'm Ganges. Shrotasham asmi Janavi. So the word Shrotasham means that fish flows. So he's Ganga. And why is he Ganga? Because it comes from the lotus feet of Vishnu. And then it is received by Lord Shiva on his head. And so we can contemplate on each of these items, right? Where there is one of the bhajans by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Shuddha Bhakta Charana Renu. There he glorifies Mother Ganga. Charana Sindhu Dekhiya Ganga Sukha Sasima Paya. So he says you can Charana Sindhu, you can contemplate on Ganga, that it is coming Charana Sindhu, it is coming from the lotus feet of Vishnu. So all these vibhutis are for us so that we can meditate on Krishna whenever we see anything anywhere. That's the bigger goal here. What's next? Of all creations, I am beginning and the end and also the middle, O Arjun. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. So the word here used is sarga, sarganam, of all creation. The word sarga is creation. So beginning, middle, and end, right? We heard before Krishna started speaking about the vibhutis, he said, right, aham atma gudakesha, sarva bhutasya sthita, aham adhisya madhyam cha, bhutanam anta evacha. So he was saying that I'm pervasive in all living beings, right? So so of all that is created, he's there, right? So he's being talking about here. That's what he's talking, that I am the creator of everything. I'm the beginning, middle, and end of everything. Then comes, of all the sciences, I'm spiritual science of the self. So if we notice, right, we'll have material science also, and we can learn material science. But then material science can be helpful, but it cannot get us out of this material world. Adhyatma Vidya can be used to get out of this material world. Not just that, the Adhyatma Vidya can grant us the best possible fulfillment even in the material world while we are here. Right? So that is why, of all the sciences, I'm the spiritual science of the self. And among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. So the word used here is pravadatam, arguments. Pravadatam. So pravadatam is debate, right? Argument. So I'm logicians and the conclusive truth. So he's saying, yes. So there are many different kinds of arguments. I think Prabhupada talks of them in the purport somewhere. Let me see if I had. Oh yeah, let's read this. Among logicians, there are different kinds of arguments. Supporting one's argument with evidence that also supports the opposing side is called jalpa. Merely trying to defeat one's opponent is called vitanda, but the actual conclusion is called vada. The conclusive truth is a representation of Krishna. So saying vada pravadatam must mean. That is why Prabhupada is giving what does vada actually mean. This is the actual conclusion, right? So vada means conclusion. So arguments and debates have always been a part of our ancient Indian culture. You might have seen it. People would have debates. I don't know if anybody of you has seen, there's this Chanakya serial that came many, many years ago, probably in the 80s or early 90s. And there we often see that these, saints, they sit down and debate. They talk about these things. So this has been a culture of India forever, right? So any conclusive, irrefutable argument is Krishna's power. That's the beauty. It's not the other ones, like, so like he's saying, so Krishna Prabhupada is giving the example of what is Vitanda. Vitanda is, I don't care if I'm right or not, I'm going to prove you wrong. That's kind of it. Trying to defeat one's one's opponent, right? So that's what is called Vitanda, right? So just to prove other side wrong, not trying to discover what is right. So that kind of debate is not, that kind of argument is not Krishna. Krishna is the conclusive, irrefutable argument, which is Vada. So that's what it means here. Aksharanam ekaro asmi dvandva samasikasya cha aham evakshaya kalo dhata aham vishwato mukha. Of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I'm also in inexhaustible time, and of creators I am Brahma. So there are many letters. When we look at letters, we don't think of Krishna generally, right? We think of language. To see spiritual and grammatical, when we see we will see spiritual and grammatical things when we see letters are coming from Krishna, right? So interestingly, the Prabhupada, Ekaro, Prabhupada translates the letter A, right? So first letter of English and Sanskrit are right A, right? And so A and that's similar. So and if you notice in all sounds of Sanskrit, the word is present there, right? So yeah, so that's why so it's A. So the first letter A is a manifestation of Krishna. So that means the power of language is manifesting Krishna's opulence. So it's always there. So then again in Sanskrit, then the dual words Krishna is talking about. So sometimes we join two words, right? It's like and sometimes, right, we do, right, operate, cooperate. So you use as a prefix. So then dvandva, right? So dvandva is a compound word where both words have equal weightage. When I say cooperate, they don't have equal weightage, even though they are two. You can remove and separate out those two words. Uh, like if you say Ramakrishna, so they both have equal weightage, right? Or if you say Krishna Balram, both have equal weightage. So dvandva. So Krishna is saying that among the compound words, I'm the dual compound. Dual compound means both the words have equal weightage. That's what it means. They have equal potency. So this is a sign of expertise of the use of language, and that is coming from Krishna. So now the other one is time. Next is coming of time. So here it is saying, I am also inexhaustible time. So earlier it was, what was that? We just read time, right? Which verse? 30. Yes. Yeah. Among subduers, I am time. We just read that. This is verse 30. Okay. So now we are again seeing the use of the word time. Where is it? Let's see, and we'll figure out what is it. So I'm also inexhaustible time. So earlier it was subduer of time. Here it is eternality of time. Time exhausts everyone, but it never gets exhausted itself. Right? Time deteriorates everything, but never gets deteriorated. So even though talk is about time, but the purpose is different. Earlier it was subduer, and here it is eternality. And last is Brahma. So Brahma is the manifestation of Krishna's opulence. Right? Someone can say, "Oh, I've built so many buildings." A big architect can claim, "Oh, I built 10 different buildings or 20 famous buildings," but then he can never create like Brahma, who can build a whole universe. So that is the opulence of Krishna. 34. I'm all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I'm fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So, all devouring death. That's a very interesting way of putting it. Sarva haram, all devouring. So in this world, we have thieves. They can steal credit cards, they can steal clothes, money, so on and so forth. But a thief like death, it takes away our identification itself. Who am I? That's lost completely. Next life, whatever I become, I might become a dog, a cat. I won't have this body anymore. So my identification will be completely taken away by death, right? So I'm a scientist, or I'm a doctor, or whatever I may be. So the only thing that is left is the conception that we have, the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, that takes forward, which unfortunately just includes our desires and karma. That's the package we take forward, but our complete identification is taken away by death. The material identification is taken away. Sorry, I just want to clarify that. It does a thorough job there. All devouring capacity, right? He's not just a destroyer only. So he can take away everything. And then he's saying, I'm generating principle of all that is to be, right? So he's not just all devouring death. So devouring means it looks like a destroying capacity, but that's not just the part of it. He's also the generating capacity, right? Uh, generating capacity, right? The process of any new life coming into this world is by itself very fascinating. How a child grows and is born and he grows in his mother's womb and takes birth and the child grows, so it's very fascinating. If you see, there's this process of arrival of new life, right? So God's glory can be seen everywhere, in anything where we see. Okay. See what it is here. The word Hara is also good. We all chant Hare Krishna, Hare. So the word Hari comes from Hara. So Hara means to take. So Hari is the one who takes away all the bad quality. So he's Hari. So the word Hara is when we chanting, or Hare, that's it. um, he takes as Hari, he takes away everything. Okay. And then last part is woman. So these qualities that are being talked about, they are feminine in nature. So when women have these qualities, that is a representation of Krishna. So that's one way of looking at it. So when women have these qualities, or the fame, fortune, etc., that is a representation of Krishna. Another expression is that these are feminine qualities. That's another way of looking at it. So certain nouns are masculine or feminine, right? So the word narinam refers to feminine. That's the way to look at it also. So point is, we can see everything as opulence of Krishna and get attracted to Krishna, right? So yes, so that's the way of looking at it. So these are prominent feminine features. So this is the proper balance between, sometimes we read, oh, Prabhupada says women have less intelligence. But then we have talked about it in detail in the past, that what does that exactly mean? What did Prabhupada exactly mean by that? But then this is the other end of it. We are seeing that these feminine features, they are very prominent. They are a manifestation of Krishna's opulence. So goddess of learning is female. We often tend to misunderstand when we look at one side only and not balance it out. So this is a very good balancing part also. On one side, seeing that, oh, women have less intelligence, but then the other side saying that, no, women have these extraordinary qualities also. So look at it from that perspective. Okay. Okay. Of the hymns in the Samved, I am the Bhrit Sam, and of poetry I am Gayatri. Of months I am Margashirsha, November, December, and of the seasons I am the flower-bearing spring. So Samved is considered very poetic. In the Samved, there is Bhrit Sam, which is a very melodious, which is used for glorifying the Lord. Amongst the musical section, Bhrit Sam is a section that is very pleasing, emotionally uplifting to the heart. And that's Krishna's opulence, the paramount musical appeal, right? You must have all experienced this. Music is a very powerful trigger for human emotions. And that capacity, that charm of music comes from Krishna. And then Krishna continues with the same theme of music. It goes to Gayatri mantra. So all the Vedas have meters, and one of them is Gayatri, right? So all these have, whatever we hear or read, all these phrases have meters, right? Like, for example, if you go to Brahma Samhita, Brahma Samhita is Vasanta Tilakam meter. When you read that, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakarasadmashu Kalpa Vriksha Dakshavrateshu Surabhira Vipalayantam. So that's Brahma Samhita, that's Vasanta Tilakam. That's a meter, right? Most of the verse that you read in Bhagavatam, not Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, right? Britsam tatha samanam Gayatri chandasamaham masanam vargashirshoham ritunam kusumakaraha. That's Anusthub. That's Anusthub meter. So there are all these meters, right? Different meters that you can see, right? There's a word. There's one. Shows that the Sad Goswami Astakam. That's another meter that you sing it in, right? That what is that? Okay, I forgot that. Sorry, but yeah, I'm just trying to say is that there are different meters to sing all these verses. So Krishna, here the word Chandasa, the poetry, it's not referring to it's not referring to the Gayatri mantra that we chant here. Just wanted to highlight that. It's just a meter. Gayatri is one of the meters that is in which verses are recited, right? So there is a mantra Gayatri, but then there is also a meter Gayatri. So talking about music here, music philosophy, sonic philosophy. Then he says among the months I am Margashirsha. So Margashirsha is November, December, right? It is the time when nature reveals its full bounties, right? So calendars are in India, the Indian calendar, the Hindu calendar, if you see, it's according to the traditions, according to when the crops come out and all that, right? So for agriculture, November, December is when harvesting happens, right? Because then the winter set in. So for us, December is always beautiful because we have Gita Marathon. Prabhupada started the Gita Marathon at the Christmas time. Since then, we have always had the Gita Marathon where we distribute Bhagavad Gitas everywhere. Right? So power of a certain period to change people's heart is Krishna's opulence. Right? Sometimes if the weather is very good, we suddenly feel very joyful. We feel, just so calm and happy that we could just sit down and look at the rainfall and smell the earth. That's Krishna's opulence manifesting. So the first one is divisions of the month. So he's saying I'm Margasisha, but the next part is seasons, right? So seasons is the fall, flower bearing spring. So that's when the nature is celebrating. It looks as if nature is celebrating, right? And that also evokes emotions in our heart. And that's also manifestation of Krishna's opulence. So first he talks about months and then he talks about seasons. So kusum akaraha, the word he's using here is kusum akaraha. Spring is called kusum akaraha. So the word akara is maker, right? Ratanakar. So one who creates pearls. So the ocean is the one that creates pearls. So Ratanakar can be somebody like ocean. So similarly, Kusumakar is somebody who creates kusuma, flowers. So who creates flowers? The spring season. Right? So it looks as if the whole world has been colored by a painter. Okay. I think I have two of them more, and then I'll take a pause, see if anybody has heard. I think there is the opulences are up till 2038, I think, 37 or 38. So we are at 36. I'm also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid, I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Right? So Chalyatam is cheats, right? So among all the form of cheating, I am gambling. Right? So why gambling? Somebody would ask, why is gambling? So just imagine, right? When you're cheating somebody, normally nobody wants to be cheated. But if somebody fools me in a way that I willingly participate in that cheating, in that endeavor, that ends up cheating me or fooling me. So that is a manifestation of an extraordinary cunningness, right? So when we just imagine Las Vegas, right? Las Vegas is such a opulent city. If you go to these beautiful fountains, and I went there over I think probably 15 years ago. It's beautiful. So they're making, obviously they're able to cheat others by gambling, and that's why they are so rich and opulent. But that is a manifestation of Krishna's opulence. So that's why it's gambling, because people voluntarily agree to be cheated. That is why gambling is said to be the topmost of all the cheatings. So once again, I just want to highlight that Krishna's opulences, these are all Krishna's opulences, but then how they are used can differ. So don't think that, okay, oh, Krishna is also sending negative, or he's sending. Krishna is sending his opulence. Now, how I use it, it's up to me. Krishna can give me a good, strong body, but I would prefer to just lie on the couch and watch TV. On the other hand, somebody who gets a good, strong body might go out and try to serve Krishna as much with his strong body. Probably he can do a lot of probably going like book distribution, right? So we go for book distribution sometimes in hot summers. We all go there. So, or sometimes it takes a lot of effort to cook prasadam. It's a lot of effort. You might be standing for hours at a stretch. DT dressing, hours you're standing. So that if you have a strong body, so it benefits that. But then depends how we use it. So it's Krishna's opulence. It can be used properly or misused. Right? Then somebody can say, that, oh, Yudhishthira also gambles, so why can't we? That is how people fool themselves and get fooled also, when they haven't realized the scriptures through a proper bona fide guru. That's the problem. So when you see Yudhishthira gambling, the message is not that the most virtuous person is gambling, so I can also gamble. But the message is completely opposite. Message is to demonstrate is that even if the most virtuous person gambles, even he gets in trouble. Right? I'm not at all virtuous, right? But the most virtuous person, even he can get into trouble by gambling. That's the extent of the endeavor, chanting, cheating. How powerful it is. That it can even trick the most virtuous person on this earth. Right? So sometimes Mahabharata uses these exalted characters to demonstrate extreme lessons for us in unforgettable ways. Right? Point is not that cheating is divine. Cheating is accepted as a fact of nature, and amongst cheaters, some of them are extraordinary. So that's what Krishna means by saying that I am Dyutam Chalyatam Asmi. That's what he said. Of the splendid, I am the splendor. Right? Tejasvi Namaham. So for us, sun is very splendid, right? Sun is the most splendid. So it's so we hear in the Brahma Samhita that splendor of the sun comes from Krishna. Yachakshuresha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suram murtim ashesha teja yasyagya brahmati sambrita kala chakro govindamadi purusham tamham bhajami. So that splendor of the sun is coming from Krishna. So that's what I just gave an example, that sun as an example. The sun is the most splendid in this creation. It's what sustaining life practically. The sun was to disappear, we would all be gone quickly. So yes, so okay, yeah. So some people have charisma. That's another way of looking at splendor. Some people have charisma, and that is a representative of Krishna, right? It's not easy to deconstruct charisma. What is it that people, what is it that makes people attractive? Now, we get attracted to our spiritual masters, right? But others might not understand why I'm attracted to my spiritual master. So there is different nature of spiritual versus material charisma. So God's opulence is all inclusive. It helps everything, right? So even though cheating is wrong, it requires expertise and cleverness, and that is coming from Krishna, right? So point is that wherever anything is attractive, it's coming from Krishna. And as I said, splendor can refer to many things. We talked about the sun, or the splendor, the charisma of individuals, so on and so forth. So then he says, Jaya, what was that? Jayo asmi, vyavasaya asmi. So Jaya means victory. Vyavasaya, Prabhupada is translating that as adventure. Okay? So the whole experience of winning becomes a lifelong memory treasure for us, for some people, right? So there's so much thrill that comes from that victory, the experience of winning, that it remains with us for the rest of our lives. So that thrill that comes at the time of victory is coming from Krishna. That's why the experience is so exhilarating, right? And we all make victories every day, tiny, tiny victories. You set your alarm, you wake up in the morning with your alarm, you made a victory there, right? That is Krishna right there. So we should never ignore, neglect, or undermine our tiny victories, because these tiny victories eventually sum up to be a very big victory, right? So as I say, right, that big shots are the ones who just kept hitting the small shots. That's how they became a big shot. So beginning with the tiny victories, we all have them, right? That helps us get out of Maya when those victories become more and more and they become substantial. Right? Just like the analogy we have talked about, right? So you are in a boat in the ocean, and the ocean is all in upheaval, and it's been pushing your boat here and there, and you have this rope that you're holding on to. And when you have these small victories every day, every day I woke up, I did my chanting before I went out of my house. Every day I read my Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, whatever we're reading. Those tiny victories, they keep building up. Right? When you have a filament, right? You add two filaments, it becomes a thread. You add another filament to it, it becomes it becomes a rope. And then so it keeps increasing, and then it becomes strong enough for us to hold on to it. So whenever we have a victory, we can always remember that this, because of Krishna, I'm victorious. So what is next? Victory. Yeah. And victory also, it can be different in material and spiritual environment. When you read Leela-Amrita, there is that episode of making the temple in Juhu. Mr. N had given land to ISKCON, but Mr. N was a cheat. He had fooled many people. He used to give the land, and then he will sell the land to many people, the same land, and he would keep their token money and not return it. So he'd been cheating everyone. He tried to cheat Prabhupada, and he did a lot of offenses against devotees. He published anti-ISKCON literature and distributed. He had a newspaper or something, newspaper press or something, and so he did a lot of damage. But then he died, and his wife realized that they had made a mistake against devotees, and she came and begged forgiveness to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada treated her as his own daughter. So that victory that Prabhupada had, people would ask him, Prabhupada, why do you want to make a temple here, Juhu? Now Juhu is a very opulent area in Mumbai, but then at that time it was nothing but a marsh. They were all trees, like a jungle. They were all insects and infested with snakes and insects and all that. And somebody asked, Prabhupada, why do you want to make it? He said, because I promised Radharas Bihari that I am going to make a temple for you. And I established them there. So he said, now it's Krishna's choice whether he wants me to be victorious or not. I made my promise, I'll try till my last breath. But if Krishna doesn't want it, it might not happen. So there was this victory that Prabhupada had was coming from Krishna's mercy. That was Krishna's grace right there. Right? Victory. That was like what it's called, Jayosmi. Jayosmi. That's the Jayosmi that is being talked about. Right? ISKCON was very new at that time to India, and people didn't know ISKCON was coming from a proper sampradaya, and we had thousands of years of history and all that. So then comes adventure. So wherever there is victory, there is thrill, right? Sportsmen want that again and again, right? So this is an experience of Krishna. But then as devotees, we don't try to be materially successful to get close to Krishna. And we just try to serve Krishna, and then that feeling will be constant. So that's the so Krishna consciousness is a thrilling adventure, if you notice that, right? The whole world is going in one direction, and I stand up and say, no, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Devotees do that. No, right? So there's this. Prabhupada sent three couples to London, right? New couples, barely in their 20s, new couples, and he sent them to London, right? And what they had to go through so much hardships. When they were entering London, they had to show that they had money to take care of them for some period of time, and they had only $1,000, I think. And so one would enter England, and then he would wire the money back, and then the other one would show the same money and come into England. So that's how they got into England. But that was an adventure, right? Once Prabhupada was traveling by train. I think he was coming from, where would that be? Ahmedabad to Delhi. Ahmedabad, Vrindavan, Delhi. I'm not sure what the route is, but I think he was coming from Ahmedabad to Delhi. And when he was in Delhi, or no, probably, okay, I don't remember the exact route, but when in Delhi, somebody just got onto the train and he saw this Swami, and he just approached the Swami, paid his obeisances, and he started talking to Prabhupada. So how is your mission going? And Prabhupada said, oh yeah, we have 100, I think we have a lot of temples all over the world. These my disciples. Prabhupada was very happy to show his disciples, and that man asked, okay, do you have a center in Delhi? Prabhupada asked, turned to Gurudas Prabhu, and he said, do we have a center in Delhi? Gurudas Prabhu said, no, we don't have a center in Delhi. The man said, you don't have a center in Delhi. It's the capital of India, and so and so forth. This is the place you should have a center. Prabhupada thought for a minute. He told Gurudas and Yamuna Mataji, they were a couple at that time. He told them, you get off the station right now and you go and start a center in Delhi. What a thrill, right? Just imagine the adventure there. Obviously, but that adventure can only happen if somebody has the full desire to serve one spiritual master and fully follow their instructions. Then you can have this kind of adventure. It's not for me, right? I don't have faith. My faith is very shaky. But only one who has full faith on Guru and Shastra, that for him this becomes this whole process becomes like touching live wire. You can experience thrill that we can hardly imagine of, right? So that's what thrill is. That's what adventure is being talked about here. Strength of the strong, right? Sattva sattvatamaham, right? Sattvam sattvatamaham. So I'm the strength of the strong. So the word sattva can also mean life-sustaining essence. So there is sattva in grain, there is sattva in this earth. Anything that is life-sustaining is also sattva. So that's another way of looking at sattva, that I'm the life-sustaining essence of everything. And, so right. Then if you look at it from a strength perspective, different people have different strengths. The Brahmanas have intellectual strength. Kshatriyas have physical strength. So strength is also an opulence coming from Krishna. 37, what is next? 37 and 38. So two more of the opulences, then we'll take a pause. Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudev. And of the Pandavas, I am Arjun. Of the sages, I am Vyasa. And among great thinkers, I am Ushan. So Krishna is talking about two powerful dynasties here. And then also of the sages, whose knowledge takes us to gods and gods. So Vasudev is father. So Vasudev is father, Vasudev is Krishna. So the word Vasudev is a generic name for both Krishna and Balram. I think Prabhupada says this in the purport. Yeah, okay, both of them can be called Vasudev. Yes. So Krishna is not talking about himself, but his manifestation, right? The manifestation of his of that dynasty. That's what he's talking about. Pandava Nam. So of the Pandavas, I'm Arjuna. So now somebody will be surprised. Why not Yudhishthira? Yudhishthira is the eldest brother. But Arjun's name is here because he has devotion towards Krishna. Yudhishthira didn't have devotion not full devotion towards Krishna. He was also a devotee, but not to the extent Arjun had. When Dronacharya was inflicting havoc on the Pandavas' army, Krishna thought of a plan. There was an elephant named Ashwathama, and Dronacharya's son's name was also Ashwathama. Krishna said that if we somehow make a declaration that Ashwathama has died, so Dronacharya will think that his son has died and he will die of that sorrow. And who will be the right person to make that declaration? They said Yudhishthira, because Yudhishthira never says a lie. So Krishna tells Yudhishthira, please go and say this. Yudhishthira says no, or Yudhishthira says it, but he says it in a way that so he says that Ashwathama is dead, and then with a lower voice he said, but I don't know whether it's the animal or whether the elephant or Dronacharya's son. So he didn't fully fulfill Krishna's order, and it said that his chariot would be floating. It never touched the ground. But that day, when he refused to follow Krishna's instruction, it touched the ground. He lost his virtuosity to some extent. So Arjun is following Krishna's instruction to the dot. So he's the Pandavana. He's the Arjuna Pandava. Then we have Vyasadeva. Right? So he's a literary incarnation of the Lord. That's not necessary. Then Shukracharya, who's Ushan is Shukracharya. And there's a very nice, so Kavinam Ushan Kavi. Okay, so remember this phrase, Kavinam Ushan Kavi. So Ushan is Shukracharya. Shukracharya is the guru or the teacher of the demons. No. Yes, Shukracharya is there. Yeah. So he's so he is demon's priest, but he was aware of the conclusions of Bhakti and holy name, but he was just misled. So Asuras may not worship Krishna, they may not worship Vishnu, but they have faith to some extent in the Vedic rituals. That is why they have a priest, right? So Shukracharya also knows about Vishnu, but because of attachment, he sometimes forgets it. Right? There's this episode of Vaman Dev. Shukracharya. What am I trying to say? I'm saying that they have an understanding of of Krishna, of Vishnu, but they forget it, and that's exemplified in the 8th canto. In the 23rd chapter, there is a section where once Vaman Dev had captured Bali Maharaj, he starts talking to Shukracharya, and he asked Shukracharya, what is wrong? What was wrong in what Bali Maharaj did? And there, Shukracharya glorifies Vaman Dev. So it shows that they also have an understanding of Vishnu, but they are too attached to even fully relish it. Then Kavinam Ushan Kavi. So now you would say Shukracharya is not a Kavi. The word in Hindi, the word Kavi indicates poet, but that's not the true meaning of Kavi. The word Kavi means somebody who's a highly learned being. You might have heard the word Kovida. Right? I know a devotee whose name is Kovida. So that's a highly learned being. And the symptoms of a highly learned being is that they speak poetry naturally. Right? That's why the word Kavinam here. So just wanted to clear that. The Kavinam doesn't necessarily means poets. It means great thinkers, exalted beings. Okay, the last verse of the Vibhuti section. Among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am the wisdom. Right? There are various ways in the society to subdue miscreants. They have army, FBI, so on and so forth. But still, so much lawlessness exists. Right? So that is why punishment is needed. All these, all the ways by which we have in society, they eventually give punishments. So just imagine that now we can barely rule a small part of a town or something. But in the olden days, Yudhishthira was ruling the whole world. How could he do that? By Krishna's mercy. Okay? So this is the last verse that describes the Vibhuti. So then we come is Dhamma, Dhamyatam Asmi. So Dhamma is physical discipline of sense control. Right? It comes in the 16th chapter also. We will see this when we read the 16th chapter. Dhamma. Tama Satyas Tapa Shaucham. It'll come as the quality of the godly people, damas. Right. So physical punishment is sometimes required in some cases when all the other ways have not given results. So that's why Krishna is saying that I am punishment. And then he says his morality in who seek victory. So now victory can be sought in many ways. There can be immoral ways also. When somebody is trying to gain victory morally, that is special and unusual in today's world in Kali Yuga. Right? When good guys finish first, it is special always. So the word that is being used here is where's that? Niti. Niti is morality. That's the word being used. Niti also means planning, strategy. Right. So another way of looking at it is that strategy just doesn't, today's strategy is how can I make the most profit? But in the old, so this is very immoral. But in the olden days, uh, the strategic planning was such that what I am going to do, how does it affect the environment? If I'm bringing out a product, how is it supposed, how does it affect the environment? How does it impact the society? So that was the thought process. It was moral. So Prabhupada has very brilliantly translated the word niti as morality. Right? So what it means is technically is that those who become victorious, the strategy that they have applied is me. And Prabhupada is also, how Prabhupada is translating is that those who seek victory morally is me. That's the way to giving. And then last part is secret things I'm silence. Oh, so Guhyam is secret. The word that is used. So most effective way to keep a secret is by staying silent. Right? And Prabhupada talks about it. Among the confidential activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating, silence is most important because by silence, one can make progress very quickly. So what it means is that if we practice mauna, silence, we can become exceptional in hearing, thinking, and meditating. And that mauna represents Krishna. And mauna requires a lot of sense control. It's very hard to remain silent. And then the wise, I am the wisdom. Okay. And then Prabhupada, I think he clarifies who's wise here. The wise is one who can discriminate between matter and spirit, between God's spirit, superior and inferior nature. And such knowledge is Krishna himself. That is it. So among the knowledgeable people, I'm knowledge. And what does knowledge mean? Somebody, and who's that knowledgeable person? Who can discriminate between matter and spirit. So 39, 40, the last four verses are more of a summary of the whole chapter. But before I move on, if there are any thoughts, comments, now is the time.
Prabhu, in 36, Krishna's talking about gambling. He's the gambler. But is it, I'm trying to connect it to another verse in Bhagavad Gita. Is there another verse where he says, I'm the best of the gambler?
Not that I can remember of.
I thought I had remembered that, but maybe I'm incorrect.
I'm not sure if let me see if I can search gamble. Is gambling? It's going to search the whole document. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's another verse, Matthew, about gambling.
Okay.
It's not in Prabhupada's purports, but not in the not a verse that I can think of. Okay. Any more thoughts, anyone? No? Okay. We'll go to the last four verses. We'll summarize the last four verses and complete this chapter. So we are Yutam Chulyatam 37. So we did up to 38. Okay, so 39 to 42 is is a summarizing the principles that are conveyed by listing of the various vibhutis that happened from verse 20 to 38. So we have read the Chatushloki Bhagavatam also came here. Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita also came in this chapter starting from 10.8 to 11. Aham sarvasya prabho mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. That was it. So Krishna is going to now reiterate that. I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. So without Krishna, nothing can exist. Krishna comes as the soul, and he is also the basis of our existence. Right? Vritayartham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani yat tadvidyadatmano mahyam yatha bhasho tatha tamha. There's this verse which is in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. No, second canto. I'll just pick this up. This is an important verse to connect with this verse here. So that's also coming from the Chatushloki Bhagavatam 2.3.10. 2.3.10. Anna. 2.3.10. It's not that. Pratiyeta 2.9.34. I found it. So Krishna is talking to Lord Brahma. And let me share my screen. Ritayartham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano mayam yatha bhasho yatha tamha. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. That's an important verse to connect with what we just read here in this verse. This is 2.9.34, if somebody's keeping record. So, yes. So there's what Krishna is saying, that nothing can exist without me. Whatever you think is existing without me is just illusion. That's it. And then he's saying that Bijam, the word Krishna used here is Bijam, that I am the seed giving of everybody, of all creation. And we'll see this in the 13th chapter also. Krishna will say that Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutana. Sorry, Aham Bija Pradapita. He says that. So that's being talked about here. Prabhupada is giving a very good meaning of the word Maya, that which is not. 40. O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Right? In conclusion, he says that there is no end to his vibhutis. Krishna is saying that. And some examples are given here. Otherwise, his glories are expansive. They are unlimited. Right? Because when we read in the beginning, before his opulences, Krishna started, he said, Pradhaniyata Kurukshetra, that I'll tell you the Pradhaniyata, the main ones, not everything. Here he repeats the same thing. Esha tadudeshyata prokto. Esha tadudeshyata prokto. That I'm going to give you some examples of my opulences, merely indicative of my opulence. Right? So we can look for him in everything. But then we have to also understand that Lord is not comprehensible by our finite intelligence, by our limited intelligence. So this should not cause confusion and demotivation that, oh, I cannot understand Krishna, but should be jubilation. Because people who are able to understand Krishna has shown his mercy on them. So we should very patiently wait for Krishna's mercy to happen. And then we will understand who Krishna is, we'll understand his opulence, and we will have a perfect relationship with him. sammoham sarva bhuteshu nami dveshwasti na priya ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya maitateshu chapiham. That's the 26th verse of the 9th chapter. That, sammoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshwasti na priya. That all these people are in sammoham, that they're in a moha, illusion, and I am just giving them, I'm not biased to anybody, I'm neutral. But if you become my devotee, ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya, then we become inseparable. Then I give you the full knowledge. That's what it is. "41. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor." So this is the crux of the whole chapter. It explains nicely, right? That whatever opulence you see, whatever beauty you see, whatever glory you see, it's all coming from Krishna. Just a spark of Krishna. It's not Krishna's complete splendor, it's just a part of it. Amsha, the word Krishna uses here is amsha. Mama amsha sambhavan. So it's his manifestation, his part and parcels, right? We talked about Shirodakshay, Karanodakshay, Garbhodakshay, Vishnu manifesting, and they're taking everything. So it's just an amsha of Krishna that is showing this whole splendor. I gave that example, right? There was a devotee who went to receive Prabhupada. He saw an air hostess coming out of it, and he was so attracted to her, he just kept looking at her. He was supposed to click pictures of Prabhupada, but he was just kept looking at the air hostess. And when he turned his face, he saw Prabhupada standing right in front of him. And Prabhupada said, just imagine if the air hostess is so beautiful, how beautiful Krishna will be. If one amsha of Krishna is so beautiful, how beautiful is Krishna himself, the complete whole. Purna madam, Purna midam. So that's the way to look at all that is opulent out there. Okay. But what need is there, Arjun, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. The Lord here tells Arjun that there is no point in understanding how things exist in their separate opulence and grandeur. He should know that all things are existing due to Krishna's entering them as super soul. Yeah. You don't have to understand everything separately, right? It's not like you go to buy rice in the store and there are 100 types of rice and you have to understand each and every rice. Rice is rice, you put it in water and you boil it. That's the basic understanding. You understand the basic capacity of rice, what it does. They all have starch in some amount. They all are, they're kind of a food, a staple food, and so on. So you don't have to understand everything about them if you know the basis of it, right? So that's what Krishna is saying. So this chapter, that it can help us in many ways. The practical application is vast from this chapter. It can remove misconception about who is supreme, for one. It can help us remember Krishna from moment to moment, right? Then, more importantly, this chapter can help us give up envy towards others when they are manifesting some opulence. Right? And it can especially help us not to seek credit when we get done something great. Right? If I do something extraordinary, and if I understand and meditate on this chapter, I realize that whatever the victory I got, all that success was just a part and parcel of Krishna. That was Krishna's manifestation. It was not my effort. So a lot of practical application for this chapter to understand and implement in our lives. We're done with the 10th chapter. We will start the 11th chapter next week. And that's the universal form of Krishna. Okay, so we're done with this chapter. I won't start the next chapter. Any thoughts and comments?